I'm Scott L. Miller. It's the 25th of June, 2022. I am here in Guatemala City, Guatemala. It is my first full day here in the city, and welcome to my vlog of daily life in Central America. I am loving this city. This is my first time getting to explore it. We did a little bit last night. I got in, but really stayed in a really small area last night. So today's my first chance to venture out in any capacity farther than just that little bit around the hotel. This morning, so Ivonne went up to do her mushroom thing. So she left me early this morning. I was already awake, but not really up and moving yet. She was supposed to leave at like 5:30, but actually left at like 7:30. So I was up quite early, and I'm like, wait, is she still here? Like, why is she here? But they just got a late start. I got up and said, well, I feel like exploring a little bit, but I'm on my own and I really want coffee. So I headed out to this gorgeous little cafe that we had seen last night while we were walking around, and I thought, boy, that place looks perfect. So I went to that today, and I spent a bit of time. I just hunkered down there, got a flat white with almond milk, which helps you feel better, and drank that. And then I'm like, they have got this thing on the menu called a lachata, which is coffee, like espresso with horchata. I'm like, that just sounds really good. So I talked to the girl. She's like, oh, it's popular, trust me. I'm like, okay. She's like, hot or cold? I'm like, I don't know, what do you think? She's like, hot is actually the way to go. I'm like, yes. She's like, almond? Yes. Okay, so I got this huge lachata. It was fantastic. It's so good. Just mentioning it, I want to go back and get one right now. I'm hoping as I'm recording this, I'm about to go back and get one. But I'm actually recording this 2 days in the future at 9 o'clock in the morning. I've been out walking for a really long time. I'm filming this in the southern Parque de las Americas in Zona 14, and the girls are still asleep. I've texted them, and I've checked their phones. Neither of them are awake. So I've been up since about 6:30, and I left probably like 7:30. I'm like, okay, they're sleeping. I've done some TikToking. I've done some editing. I need to get out and walk and film, so that's what I'm doing. It's been very busy while we've been here. Not a lot of chances to film, as you will hear as we tell how things went today. So I went, and so I did this cafe thing probably for a couple hours. Like, it was just great. I just love the people watching. So much life in this city, and it is Saturday, by the way, just in case you're, and I had a lot of fun and really enjoyed my coffee. From there, I then went out and walked a little bit, but mostly stayed just in wider circles around the same zone. So I learned several blocks in every direction. I went much farther to the east out to Diagonal 6, Diagonal 6, went farther south, came back on Calle 14, the 14th Street, and zigzagged through a lot of that and found just so many interesting places, little coffee shops and restaurants and stores and neighborhoods and parks and beautiful apartments. So much up, like, places to live. What a cool looking city. Yesterday I was pretty impressed, and today I'm just more and more impressed with the city. And so I did that for a while. Then I went back to the hotel. I'm like, all right, I got a lot of devices to charge. I have to get, Valentina's flying in today, so that's our big thing, right? Ivonne's out in the mountains. I'm on my own for most of the day, and Valentina is doing her first ever solo travel and her first ever work travel. She is coming down from Mérida, Yucatan, Mexico, to Guatemala City. She has never been to Guatemala, never been to Guatemala City, obviously, never been to Central America at all, and never traveled on her own, and has, because of COVID, hasn't traveled in many years at all, really, other than going back and forth between her two home cities of Mérida and Cancun, which are, you know, a bus ride apart, so not far at all. And so this is a really big thing for her. And I've been talking to her when we were on the bus, and she was talking about how the weather and all this stuff. And I'm like, you know, the COVID restrictions are now dropped. The weather here is perfect. Everything, like, this is the time to travel. And she, all of a sudden, she's just like, yeah, let's do it. Put me on a plane. So this was a surprise travel. Like, no, everything just fell into place, and she's coming down. She has worked for us for 4 years, so she and I have spoken every day, essentially, for 4 years. She's been my right-hand girl for forever, my girl Friday, for everything. She runs the company, and we've never gotten to meet in person. Paul and Dominica have met her, but have only spent less than 30 minutes with her, maybe not even anywhere close to 30 minutes, maybe like 10 minutes. They had a few conversations, and then she sent me a portfolio back in 2018, and that's when she came on to work for us. And so just weird that she's coming down, but so she's flying in, so I don't want her to have to deal with the airport and stuff on her own today. So I am running across the road, and just real quick, I'm filming these countries as I come to them. This is the Plaza República Dominicana, so the Dominican Republic's spot here in the middle of the city. Very cool. I love this architecture. Not what you'd normally find in a park. It's kind of cool. Very kind of US modern 1960s, not to put things in US context. So I want to make sure I'm there to meet her. So I'm like, okay, how expensive is this going to be? I suppose I should Uber. And I'm used to Ubers in the United States because I haven't used Uber in forever. Going to the local airport for us in Texas, which was really close, was about $75. So I'm really worried about how much it's going to cost to go to the airport, wait for her, and then bring her back. So first of all, I checked the Uber price and it was $3. Okay, so I check it on a map. I didn't realize the airport's in the dead center of the city and we're in zone 10, which is really close to the center of the city. So I'm like, oh, well, this looks like pretty safe roads the whole way to the airport and not that far, 1.2 miles. I'm totally walking to the airport to pick her up and then we'll Uber back. I'm like, this sounds perfect. So I set off pretty early and Ivonne actually got back just before I left. She's like, oh, I'll walk with you. And then she's like, maybe not. But she had a lot of things she wanted to do. So she's like, not that the walk was going to be far, but, and she's a little bit wary of walking around the city, which you do need to be wary of walking around the city. But I've done something on par of 22 miles so far in the last 2.5 days, walking around the city. And at no point have I been concerned in any way whatsoever. Now, maybe some of that's me. I know I'm not always concerned about things I should be concerned about, but wow, I'm not worried. And 22 miles, and I talked to Clive yesterday, who's lived here for 31 years, never a problem. So, what a cool spot. Okay, look, what is this plaza? I don't know what this is, but it's really cool. That is clearly a fountain that is currently being emptied. So they're working on it. Those are fountain workers. You can see the water coming out on the right-hand side. So it's probably something really, really interesting. I think that's Christopher Columbus. Oh, it does say that, yes. So it's probably a really cool fountain when it's up and running. But right now, obviously they're emptying it so that they can work on it. So too bad we don't get to see that running. But oh, just look at the neighborhood it's in. Look at these buildings. Now these are all, I know it's hard to follow. Tomorrow, Valentina and I will go on a walk on the other side of those buildings right through that stretch over there. So we know all these buildings and kind of the general area that I'm in today filming this episode, which is in the past. I know, it's hard for me too, trust me, here in zone of 14, but we didn't come over here, so she never got to see this. But so I started walking to the airport, and the walk was fantastic. I go by the Plaza de España, which is a huge circle in the middle of the biggest highway area. Really gorgeous. Got to see some really neat areas just in general. And then when you got to the airport, there is a highway there. So crossing it was a little bit of a pain. I found a bunch more things that the kids would want, like a 24-hour Denny's right there. Like seriously, every restaurant they like is here in the city. And then I found an overpass, like a walk, like a steps that go up, over and down so you can cross this really big highway. I was trying to cross it on the road. Thank goodness I found that because I was going to get squashed. And so I did that, and then I walked through the zoo and Museum Row. This is a gorgeous area with just like all these different museums and museum educational kind of things right by the airport, which is nice, makes a nice buffer zone. And then I got to the airport right about the time that Valentina was supposed to be landing, except she landed 10 minutes early and was able to walk straight out. Like it took her, I thought she had to go through immigration. I thought she had to go through luggage check. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna get there as her plane lands, which was already delayed. And I'm gonna be there for like hours was my anticipation. She landed 10 minutes early. She was out within like 2 minutes. I'm like, oh great. So then she texts her location and I'm like, that's 0.4 miles from the spot that like Uber would have dropped me off to the place that they were sending me on the map. So even though I was roughly on time on foot, I had a 0.4 mile rapid hike to do to get to where she actually was to get her. So she had to wait for me for a little bit, and I was hobbling a little bit because when I was walking near the Burger King taking some pictures, there was a pipe sticking out of the ground in a spot where you weren't supposed to be walking, and I didn't see it, and I twisted my broken foot pretty heavily and it really hurt. So I'm literally limping as I attempt to go find her at the airport and do 0.4 miles farther than I was anticipating. But everything went well. She was just waiting at the, arrivals outside waiting area like you do, and I was able to walk right to her, and she saw me in the group, and she's like, ah, she comes running up, and we hug, and it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're a real person. I can't believe I'm seeing you in person. This is crazy. And then she's like, you walked here? I'm like, yeah. She's like, can we walk back? I'm like, yeah. So she's like, the only thing I got is this really heavy bag. I'm like, all right. So I carried her bag, and more park stuff here. The sky's getting dark. I'm a little bit concerned about the dark sky here, and crossing the road, of course, always concerned. So this is the Plaza Canada. Oh, neat. I'm gonna come over and get a picture. Just love this area, but look at this dark sky. That's a lot of potential rain coming really quickly. So this is the Plaza Canada with, of course, a big maple leaf in the middle of it. So we start hiking back, and that's actually a really good walk because I knew all the places to go, so I wasn't like trying to find my way. I knew where to do the overpass. I knew not to step on the pipe again. My foot was definitely hurting pretty badly by the time we got back, but it was a really good hike, and got back to the hotel, no problem, settled into the hotel. Ivonne was there waiting for us, so they got to meet for the first time in person as well. Ivonne works for Valentina, so that's very cool that like just everything's coming together. Is really, and that's partially why Valentina came down. It was a perfect chance to meet with Ivonne, who reports directly to her. And while all this was going on, Ivonne managed to get us an invite to Diaca, one of the most exclusive, I'm gonna say one of, it may be the most exclusive dinner seatings in all of Central America. And it's funny because everyone says, yes, Scott always says these things and exaggerates, and we got there and Valentina said, you know, I really thought this was probably one of those times when Scott was exaggerating, and he's not. So in her words, not an exaggeration, most exclusive place that you could possibly go. So our seating is for 7 o'clock tonight. We're getting picked up at about 6:45 by Armando, who is Ivonne's friend. I met him yesterday, who is helping her with the mushroom stuff. So he's an expert in the area and works with this restaurant, how we have the connections. And so we are able to get in because of him. They tried to get in yesterday and couldn't get in at all. Turns out the restaurant only has a total of 18 seats, so a maximum capacity of 18. That's all you can ever do on any given night. So it's pretty hard to get in, considering this is a world famous restaurant and the chef is listed in the top 100 in the world. Like this is hardcore, and she's like the youngest in the top 100. Probably not the youngest. Not trying to exaggerate, but I just know that it's a big deal that she's only 36 and in this list. And from Central America, all things that don't tend to happen. So we had a bit of time to kind of relax this evening, or late afternoon. We did a little bit of walking around. We went and found a super mini, like a mini market, and picked up just some crackers and some drinks and stuff. So we had some things at the hotel, and neither Valentina nor I have had a single bite to eat the entire day. Her because she was traveling, and me because I knew we were going to go to this restaurant, and I'm like, I'm going to be hungry. It's an 8-course dinner, so there's no way I'm going to eat a bite. I have to be able to eat all of this, and I have to be like so ready for it. So that's my that was my plan. And so we were really hungry, so Valentina got some crackers and stuff, but I did manage to not eat it all. And then we just hung out for a little while. We walked around a tiny bit, showed Valentina where we were, did that stuff, hung out at the hotel, got ready, and then at 6:45 we got picked up by Armando and taken to Zona 4, which is also very fancy. It's amazing how many fancy zones there are in Guatemala City and how big they are, right? Because like I've been showing you guys so many videos already of Zona 10, Zona 14. We're going to talk about 16 in the future. We're talking about 4 now. These are huge portions. Sorry, my battery actually died there. I've been recording so much today, I burned through an entire battery, but thank goodness I have the Volta grip, and I just forgot to plug it in before the battery died, but I'm able to plug it in and we are charging again and able to keep recording for a very long time, which is a problem. I'm making some really long videos that I'm gonna have a really hard time uploading. Editing is not so bad, but uploading these for you guys is going to be killer. I actually have no idea how I'm gonna get them up, so fingers crossed that works. I may have to upload a short that just apologizes for not getting the daily up, so we will see. But so far, I have one ready. We're gonna try to upload it shortly. Okay, so anyway, what I was saying is there's just so much of the city, so many zones that are so nice, so ritzy, that it's hard to believe, first of all, that any city could have this much so nice, right? Just the volume of it, and to have that's so nice be in Guatemala in Central America, like it's very confusing. It's so, in every sense, not what you expect is this city. Yeah. So anyway, okay, so we go to Zona 4, which is fantastic. It's up a hill, and we go to this restaurant, which is at the top of the building and has a 360 view of the city. Wow, it's night, right? So we're up there, we're like, the view is something. Now, Ivonne had been up there earlier to deliver mushrooms yesterday, so she's seen the view in the daytime, but now Valentina and I are getting to see the city panorama at night. Really cool. And the whole restaurant is enclosed in glass, and it's very kind of eclectic rustic, I would call it. Like everything's like very earth tones, but it's also super modern and very, very well designed and put together. I'm gonna turn around because there's this cool art installation in the park here. Not exactly sure exactly where to stand to view it perfectly. Farther away than I am, I think, but there's a tree in the way, so you're kind of stuck with not sure where it all lines up. This would be quite an experiment to try to get it to all line up just perfectly. But it's pretty cool here in the middle of the city. And so we actually probably spent half an hour just kind of hanging out before we even tried to sit down to dinner, which is really, as Ivonne described it, almost like a show, right? It's like an 8-course dinner of just the most amazing food. Everything's custom for us. They know all of our allergies and food requirements and stuff ahead of time. And this is one of those super cool things. I've never been to a dinner of this level before. I've been to some pretty fancy places. I've had a dinner that was about $5,000 a plate, but it was not this fancy. It was more that they had brought in entertainment as part of, they flew in like artists from Paris to do the show. Then that was a work thing. This is like just the food was the show, right? Very special. So we sat down, and they start with like an explanation of what everything's going to be. The mixologist comes out and talks about the food, and they're going to do drinks that pair with the food specifically. So Ivonne had them custom make tea for her, and Armando got wine that was picked out to go with dinner, and Valentina and I both went for cocktails that went with dinner. She went for citrusy and sweet, I went for smoky and bitter, and they made these cocktails that were specifically with ingredients that would match our food and everything, and it was just wow. 8 courses, every single one was amazing. Some of the highlights, a fish that I can't even, it was mackerel, but done in a way I've never seen. It was amazing. Everybody kept remarking about the fish. For me, the highlight, as it often is, was a taco. It was a Mexican style taco, like a small taco with smoked fish, peanut butter, and a toffee topping. Like, wow. Everything. Some of the things we don't even know what they were. I had a cilantro and chocolate pate. It was for every single course, they would come out and talk to us about the ingredients and talk to us about why they chose what they did and what it is and how to eat it, how to enjoy it, what to look for. And all 4 of us are just like, each course, just wow, wow, wow. It just kept ramping up, just so good, so amazing. And the whole experience was fantastic, highly recommended. Now, I found out later that we got in, first of all, as guests, and second of all, under heavy discount, which I was wondering how the place could even stay open and even though the amount we paid was not cheap, it was not enough for what we were getting at all. Like bargain hunting high-end food here. But so Armando is actually working on a documentary with Netflix, and the place was actually, the Netflix crew was sitting behind us all night. I had no idea. They had the big table. So there's only 15 people in the restaurant all night, where there's only one seating, right? You all come for one dinner show, basically. And so Netflix is preparing to have this restaurant and this chef on one of their documentaries. And I think my Volta actually died. That's a problem because I didn't get that much charge out of it. And it's supposed to give me 3.5 battery equivalents, and that was definitely like 1/10 of a battery equivalent. And it doesn't seem to be charging. I'm worried about that. I'm gonna flip this around and actually, I'm gonna show you where I'm walking. And yeah, it's not charging currently. So that's but it shows me that it was fully charged. Yeah, no, we're gonna die. So we're gonna wrap this up as fast as we can. We've only got 7% battery left to go on this, which is good. I gotta walk back because the girls just woke up anyway. I have to go get them for coffee. So Netflix is doing a documentary on the chef, on the restaurant, on the food that they have there. We had the first ever mushroom ice cream, and it was in a squash flour. The whole thing was just so good. So I mean, I can't even put words on how good this food was. What a great experience. We had so much fun. I think we probably got back around 10 o'clock or so. We Ubered home. It's a very long dinner for 8 courses. It has to be. And they did bring out a special entire mushroom prepared just for Ivonne, because they know that she's a mushroom person and really into this, and they did a whole thing special for her, and it is certainly the best mushroom I've ever tasted in my life. And she was so happy with that. The whole thing just blew her away, and this was her special thing. Like, this is her vacation, and this is the thing that she really, really wanted to do and worked so hard to make it possible. And just, we had a lot of fun, and this was a perfect experience. I'm so glad that we did it, even though it was definitely the most expensive thing we will do on the trip. It was much more expensive than any of our hotels, entire hotels will be, right? Like, it's pretty crazy, but it was fantastic. And I didn't want to film it because it was like this really special experience, and her thing. I really hope at some point to be able to come back and really film there, but now we know the chef, and that's something we could arrange and not be in the way. Specifically do it in coordination so that it's not messing with everybody, you know. At a big restaurant, it's one thing to film. At a very, very private little thing like this, it's you have to be very thoughtful in doing that kind of stuff. And that's a lot of the things on this trip are like that. So you're getting a lot of me talking and a lot less of me showing things, which is why I'm trying to walk around the city and show you as much as I can while I walk, for exactly that reason too. Look at this beautiful pond over here. Oh my gosh, that's gorgeous. That's definitely, I think Pope John Paul II is my guess. And this is where I am ending my giant walk for this video, because my battery's gonna die and I gotta get the 6,000 steps back to pick up the girls and take them for coffee at this point. It's been a great walk. Thanks for joining me. We are having the most wonderful time here in Guatemala. Guatemala City is absolutely just off the charts fantastic. I could never have guessed. I've never seen a YouTube show. I've never seen anything that, everything has either said, avoid it because it's terrible, or don't avoid it, it's better than you think. Feel free to spend a day. By the way, it is John Paul II. And I just see the sign right here. But I'm telling you, this is a fantastic city. Now, it isn't a city built around tourists. It is a city built around being livable. So it doesn't have the really obvious tourist attractions everywhere that you would expect in a tourist city. So that's a little bit different, but I can't imagine lacking things to do between museums and restaurants and shopping and parks and walking and just what. Now, obviously, moving here, living here is the real thing that you want to be able to do. That's what makes it super special. But as a giant, very European, very cosmopolitan Latin American city, this is something truly fantastic. Tomorrow, Valentina and I are going to do a lot of exploring the city to get more of a feel for it. But both of us are just, this is so unexpected and special. So, wow. Please remember to like and subscribe. Leave all your comments below. Ask your questions. And all right, I'm going to see all of you guys tomorrow.